shut it down, but they won't. Good morning. It is 7:53 on Wednesday, December. I'm going to say the 13th, but it's not. It's the 14th. I know that now. Yep, Wednesday, December 14th. I'm Dave Logan. You're not. This is Boogie with the Bull, the Wednesday morning caffeine edition. With us is special guest Mike Gill, State of New Hampshire. State of Corruption, New Hampshire. Let me get my words.
Well, it's State of Corruption. And then again, on YouTube, there's two channels, State of Corruption, New Hampshire. So either way is right.
Okay. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Anyone is welcome to join us in the Boogie with the Bull live chat. If you have questions, we'll work them into the broadcast. This is going to be somewhere between an hour and a half. I have to be done by 9 o'clock only because I have to do things later this morning. So join us in the Boogie with the Bull live chat, which is on the Dave Logan profile, on the Boogie with the Bull page, over on the Boogie with the Bull YouTube channel, and at Boogie WT Bull on Twitter. That's where we are. And the podcast will land on Street Lock later this morning. Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Good morning, Dave. I wanted to talk about Dave.
No, don't talk about Dave. Dave is very boring.
I want to talk about, I saw a video within the last 48 hours. Now, I knew this situation happened, but I listened to this video. And this video was of a young man who went to the Sununu Youth Detention Center as a 13-year-old boy. And he was, he had problems at home. He had but he wound up there. And believe me, through the trouble and issues at family court in New Hampshire, they intentionally snatch children to get federal funds. That youth detention center, that's a money-making business. Hundreds of millions of dollars of federal aid. Stealing from the government is one of the things that this entity of corruption in the state of New Hampshire does. They turn around and sell protection to child traffickers, human traffickers, drug cartels. They launder their money along with their own, but they steal. Old-fashioned way, they steal. They steal statewide and they steal federally. When they steal
them, if you contacted them or a Sununu that you know how to reach, would they come on the broadcast and at least talk about it from their point of view, or will they never do a broadcast?
Well, I mean, what, the people in the state?
No, yeah, the Sununu.
You're not going to get anything. This is the Great Wall of Silence.
Okay.
That is why New Hampshire is ground zero for opioids, money laundering. Oh, and then we've got raping and abusing children. Mm-hmm. See, in other words, this is why we're picked. We're small, completely corrupted, ruled by two crime families, the Sununus and the Shaheens. I mean, so the point that I'm making here is that they steal. And what people don't understand is matching funds in family court is paid federally. It comes out of Social Security. So if we ever weren't out of Social Security, it's because they're stealing it. Now, and it's with education. I had one school that had 83 students. You ready? The federal government was paying 23 special needs teachers for this one school. They only had one student with special needs. It's about stealing, and it's in your face. So the point being here is that these children are being placed at a youth detention center, Sununu's youth detention center, for profit. And what happens is, so in other words, you're already incorporated the wall of silence. Now, in listening to this video and listening to this young man and the frustration through the people that were doing the interview and their questioning, it was ringing all the bells. I mean, the network of protection runs through the same avenues. So let me bring you back to this. At that point, a 13-year-old boy. He tells of stories that these guards, or they would want to, what do they want to call them? Attendants, counselors, were their guards, just as the same guards that I seen in jail of the Rockingham County Jail. I did 10 days for, what did they call it? A certain disrespect to the judge. Contempt. And you know what I saw? I saw them beating 18, 19-year-old kids. And I remember it touched my soul. And these kids were there because they were addicted. Now, at this point, this young man was 13. He tells of stories where other 13-year-old young men like himself, or boys like themselves, were stripped naked, and they were entertaining these counselors by fighting to the point where one of them is knocked out or incapacitated. Can you imagine this? Now think about this. Now this boy, again at 13, 14 years old, is raped repeatedly, day in, day out. Among others, we are talking hundreds of victims. Hundreds. I mean, the measure of our society is how we protect our children. Right. New Hampshire, you suck. You don't protect them. You fed them to the lions. These young men screamed for help. He goes on to tell the story, and he's naming names of these counselors. One of the counselors that was raping him daily was the son of the Merrimack, New Hampshire police chief. And this went on for years, and to the point where at one point he escaped, went to a neighbor, told him what he was doing. He had his pants off, just a shirt and bloodied, and they turned around and the husband didn't want to get involved. And sure enough, the same counselor snatched him up and beat him worse for coming forwards. Now, eventually these young boys become young men. And you know what? They're addicted to drugs. They were trying to escape the nightmare that this state allowed happening to the victims before him and to the victims after him. This is continuous. This I've seen and read numbers up to 800 victims. Now wrap your head around 800 victims. How do you keep that a secret? You don't think, and this is what he did.
You work very hard.
He went to the cops.
You can't, but you work very hard.
He went to the cops. And again, the worst victimizer was the son of a police chief, which doesn't surprise me.
Right.
They went to the social services and they were called out and attacked. They went to the AG's office, which covered it up. Why haven't we heard this through the media up until just recently when they filed lawsuits? And even in the court, the young man even told us, what did they file? Sealing orders, not to be discussed, not to be accessed by anyone through the court system. It is a general cover-up at all levels. And do I remind the people of New Hampshire, the name on that detention center is Sununu, and you sorry son of a bitches elected him again? I mean, Jesus, this is why you're picked. You're picked because of your own blindness. And this is the question that's in my mind as this young man goes on. These levels, how many people are involved? How many cops? How many lawyers? How many people who work out through the courts? I mean, these are 800 screaming children for your help and nothing. It is a giant cover-up. This is why your state is picked to hold the largest laundering network in the world. The Pandora Papers, they offered this young man money for his silence, as they did others, as they did me. 50 million. I posted that settlement agreement. You see the names. It is the New Hampshire Banking Department, Department of Revenue, the Banking Commissioner. You understand who represents them? The AG's office, the heart of the beast, the cover team to everything that is evil in your state. Let me have you understand what an AG's office is. The best translation is, and I think their own, is the people's attorney, meaning they represent your interest. Oh, really? Your interests. They're lawyers from law firms, McLean, Shaheen and Gordon, Divine Millimat. These law firms represent your drug cartels, as did Bill Shaheen with Dick Aganos, which is the head of it, the largest drug cartel in the country. And you'd have to be a complete moron not to realize that a guy who's been arrested multiple times for drug trafficking owns treatment centers and hospitals, you pinheads. Now, this AG's office, they have these lawyers from these law firms infiltrated. What does the people's attorney do? They represent your interest, but they don't. They cover up because you're a victim, just as this young man and these 800 children went to the AG's office to have them covered up. The AG's office even have people like Dick Tracy and Richard Head. That's right, Dick Tracy and Dick Head. What they'll do is they will investigate by threatening you. See, this is how they threaten you to your face. They threaten me. You know who represented the Department of Revenue, who's on that 50 million? Richard Head, who leveraged me, who took it to a corrupt Judge Anderson. That case, I never got a day in court. They auctioned off the property to the cartel because I wouldn't take their 50 million. That's what happens to these children. They get abused when they come forwards. As they get older, they incarcerate them. You know why? And the young man brought this up. Because then you turn around and the plan is for you to consider this young man a delinquent. He's not telling the truth. Are you going to believe a counselor? Are you going to believe an AG? Are you going to believe a cop? Or are you going to believe this young man? Well, you're damn right I believe this young man. I know these vicious animals. I know their technique. I told you years ago with State of Corruption. I put it on a bulletin board like I was teaching class. I told you that the FBI was going to cover it up. I told you the media was going to lie to you. I told you were going to lose in court. I told you banking department was laundering their money. I gave you their whole network by the names, to the point where I had to be so blatant and in your face. I put their faces on signs across highways. Someone had to warn you. Someone had to stand up for these 800 children that I hadn't met yet, but I knew were there. I met your parents. I met the victims of family court. I started State of Corruption on the hour meeting victims. I thought I'd meet a few. Turns out I met what turned out to be thousands. I rent movie theaters and sat and brought people in, as many as I could. That's how I found the victims of FRM, the Ponzi scheme. Over 400 victims. 1 week, people committed suicide. All these people asked was to live with dignity at the end of their lives. You understand their targets? The young, the innocent, the elderly. They prey like wolves on the weak. Well, I wasn't weak. And someone had to stand up for these people to find out that there's so many victims. And this New Hampshire wall of silence is now has me thinking as this young man, and I posted this video on Truth, on Twitter, on Facebook. I want you to listen to him. Have we lost our souls to the point where we don't understand the truth? And when someone's telling the truth, I am an expert at sifting through bullshit and liars, particularly politicians. I am telling you, this young man's telling the truth, as all those other young men were. And if you don't feel that, then you don't have a soul.
Can you find, do you still have contact, or did you have contact? Can you still find these people if they'll come forward and do broadcasts now?
Say that again, Dave.
Did you talk to the boys back then? Do you still have contact with them? Will they?
No, I talked to so many thousands of victims. Some of them are still following me on Facebook and YouTube. And over the years, children grow to be men. The victims that I talk about and the core roots of the people who follow me, a lot of them were the victims, were people I went to court with. And family court, I would go in with a camera with these people. Rockingham County Courthouse, when I would walk in, and again, I swear this is truth, and people out there know this is true. They would go over the loudspeaker and said, Mike Gill is in the building. That was a message to all those judges to say, tighten your stuff up. He's watching. He's recording. I was recording before Project Veritas recorded. I used undercovers before they did. It's why Project Veritas came to me with the drug cartel and worked with me. I was there. So what I'm saying is, if you listen to this young man, you hear the wall of silence. Now think about this. Of 800 people to remain silent. Again, why New Hampshire was picked for money laundering and drug distribution. It's because how many people are involved. I did a video called Play for Pay. How many cops got their jobs because they were already corrupt? How many lawyers through, for instance, the AG's office became judges based on their level of corruption? I think about this. The mafia had thousands of members. You would have to be made, you would have to kill somebody. Why is that? Because they only trust what they could leverage with your own freedom. This works the same way. The most corrupt, the most evil reaches the highest level of the state government, even to the point where they move them to the federal government. Your senators, your congressmen, they're all corrupt and filthy and at the highest levels of evil. Pappas is a member of the cartel. This is how obscene this is. Shaheen is the head of this crime organization with her husband, Bill Shaheen, who is the architect. As she turns around, as they're saying they're opening treatment centers, he is the largest opioid lobbyist in the country. This Biden, Joe Biden, and Hunter Biden, that's the model. That's not the exception. It is the rule. For every senator, you have a cash register. That's what I'm talking about. Congressman, the same. Gene Shaheen's cash register is Bill Shaheen. Who is Bill Shaheen? He was the campaign manager of Hillary Clinton. Gene Shaheen was a VP candidate for Biden. I mean, we're reaching the top levels of our federal government. That is the protection. And I am telling you, everything that I tell you is based on facts, which is why I post that evidence. Why
Let me
I post
jump
this.
into a quick question. If Gene Shaheen was supposed to be, oh, wait, I thought you said Gene Shaheen was supposed to be Joe Biden's vice president.
Right, and she refused to be vetted.
Okay. I was going to say, how did we end up with
Harris?
Kamala Harris if Gene Shaheen was supposed to be the vice president? But obviously,
well, guess what?
She refused to take it because it was probably safer for her not to.
Her own words was she refused to be vetted. Don't check into what I do.
Yep.
She refused to be vetted because of my evidence.
Yep.
She knew Trump took my evidence. They all know Trump has my evidence.
It's sad that a lot of these people that you have spoken with over the years won't come on to a broadcast and at least challenge the statements that you make. I know the statements that you make are true, and you vetted all of these statements, or else you wouldn't be making them.
I posted a $50 million settlement offer with Bill Shaheen's name on it.
Yep.
With the banking department, the banking commission, the Department of Revenue, the IRS, which Gene Shaheen's been cited for targeting. Everything I'm saying is document. They don't pay you $50 million for being wrong. I gave you recordings of the inspector general saying they had plants in my office. They were intercepting my mail. They were supposed to be investigating the IRS. I did videos of going to the FBI dozens of times, calling them out, calling them traitors and treasonous with that evidence. How about this? I've got the TITCA, the criminal division of the Treasury. I mean, giving me settlement numbers. I mean, these are the case. They don't confront me. The only thing that did was they took me to court with the cartel after they tried to murder me 3 times in 13 days. And I posted those videos, and one of them had over 1 million views. They used a corrupt judge, Delker and Tucker, right out of the AG's office. Shaheen was the lawyer. Shaheen was on the settlement for $50 million. At the same time, Walker sued me. He's on the settlement. He's represented by Divine Millimat. They're on the settlement. A blind person understands and see what was happening. And what did they do? They had the media turn around and try to sell these guys off as good guys. The union leader makes Dick Aganos the Citizen of the Year. The same paper that he was on the front page a dozen times. I mean, his project, Stellar Arms, was busted because the Sinaloa cartel not only was in there building it, was distributing it. It was the largest cocaine arrest in the history of the state. You see me bring the evidence to the DEA in Bedford, call out Aganos as the head of the cartel, and the same individual within weeks comes up with a tractor trailer full of fentanyl, which is not the largest fentanyl seizure in the state. It's the largest fentanyl seizure in the world. I mean, we keep hitting bullets. I tell you that New Hampshire is the money laundering capital of the deep state. We're talking the country. We're talking the corrupt politicians around this country, drug cartels and distribution around this company, human traffickers. I believe Biden's money and Clinton's money is in this state, which was hard for people to believe up until the Pandora Papers, who tracked money going from this country offshore and back in the tune of $932 billion, not million, billion, to the state of New Hampshire. I did a calculation the other day. You ready? For every person in the state of New Hampshire, man, woman, child, everybody, that's 717 million apiece. Now wrap your head around that, knuckleheads. $717,000 for every one of you, for every baby. 717,000. You're almost all millionaires, right? That's what's parked in hidden assets. Trust, LLCs. Who put these trust and LLCs together? Senator D'Alessandro, who the state troopers Keenan told me he was bad as Aganos and part of the cartel. He wrote the bill. See, corrupt politicians write the bill. For instance, Jerry Little, your banking commissioner, he wrote a bill. Before he was the banking commissioner, you know what the bill said? The banking commissioner, wow, how lucky, turns around and if he trusts you, he doesn't have to audit. Whoa. Then he becomes the banking commissioner. Am I the only one that see he wrote his own get out of jail free card? What was he before? Oh, he was the press secretary for Sununu's daddy. You missed that too. I mean, I could have blind squirrels find nuts more than you see the obvious. Why did he not have to audit? Because when you come knocking on his door, just in case, as long as he's taking the job, about drug cartel banks like Primary not being audited, well, I trusted him. Sue me. It's the law. You wrote it. Right. I mean, this is how obvious this is. You see, so what these laws that they write in these bills, they have their own people do it. The Medicaid expansion bill was a member of the cartel. He was a rep for a half a second. And you know what? They came in there and they passed the bill. But before Alex Walker, the lawyer, again on my settlement, the president of Divine Millimat, the same people infiltrating your agencies, he sued the state of New Hampshire. You can't tax them for that money and that profit. So when these drug cartels who own treatment centers and the hospitals are partnering with Aganos, as Catholic Medical is, as Dartmouth is, all those profits in the billions, you can't tax them. Because the CEO now of the Catholic Medical Center, who benefited from it, Alex Walker. I mean, you can't move. How I operate is I try to find something that I can't find a home for. I want to be paranoid one time and be wrong. But every time it fits like a glove. It's an impossibility to be anything else but a designed network of corruption throughout your state. And they're experts at stealing. They're expert as extortion. This is why we're picked. So again, these bills, when Kevin Avard worked with me. I supported the redress program. In fact, I donated $10,000 a month to keep it open to help victims. When he became state senator, Sununu snatched him up. I've got the paperwork, him saying that bill with FRM was corrupt, that they were paying off victims for their silence. Why were they paying off victims for their silence? Because they didn't want you investigating the banking commission. Why didn't they want you investigating the banking commission? Because you would find out that they're protecting cartel banks. The same D'Alessandro who wrote the bill to bring in trusts and LLCs corruptly into the state, you would see that. So they paid him off. But I have the evidence. I have the proof. In fact, the video doing the laundry, I show the text messages to Sununu. You want to see the truth? See me confront Sununu and see what he says. He squirmed on his chair, but he wouldn't deny. None of them denied what I was saying. That's why in the court, I had 106 witnesses against the cartel. They blocked every single one of them and all my evidence. It was a bag job from the beginning. That's why they're picked. The law firms sell protection. That's the moneymaker with Shaheen, McLean, Devine. They can bring it to insurers who will never pay a claim. Drug cartels, which will never be a judgment or prosecuted. Human traffickers. When have you seen a drug cartel or human trafficker be prosecuted in the state of New Hampshire? Yet you have streets with tents on them. Drug addicted people living in tents. I mean, I just read an article where a daycare center couldn't take the children to a park because it's full of needles. What can all these drug addicts find that one cop can't? All those years I had those signs: extortion, murder, drugs. How many police knocked on my door and say, "What's that all about?" Zero. Do you know how many lawyers, every lawyer you see those lawyers on my settlements? Every one of them acted as a mole and asked for a release. No one said they were innocent. None. Zero. Those agencies in the state, all asking for releases, are represented by your AG's office. Those same corrupt lawyers from those same corrupt law firms that are on my settlement agreement. You know why I couldn't take $50 million? Because it was a key to the door to hell. I became the sentinel. There was no money. I met with too many victims. I met with parents that lost children to drugs. I met with children who lost parents to drugs. I wasn't turning that key. I wasn't letting them out. I was going to tell the world. That's why I went to the signs. Think about this, right? Everything always makes sense. And when it doesn't, keep looking. It means you're looking in the wrong direction. Why does a wealthy man, hundreds of millions of dollars, world famous in the world of racing, why does he put everything on the line, knowing that they were going to take everything from him, including his life? My children weren't on drugs. I'm the guy you don't fuck with. These people wanted to make me a member of the club. Shaheen was my lawyer. Walker was my lawyer. I was making millions a week. I'm the guy you don't pick on, as they all found out. In fact, the last settlement agreement, what was said to me by one of their lawyers was, cursed by brilliant insight, condemned by moral conviction. You see, your enemies know you the best. The people that I'm trying to save, the sheep that I'm trying to save from getting sheared and slaughtered, they knew me the least, which is why they could turn around and have the media besmirch me. Why the same media would attack this young man and the young men that followed him and the young men before him. Are you that gullible? Or are you that cowardly? Remember that door that young man banged on? Half naked, bleeding, and beaten, and raped? Oh, the husband, we don't want to get involved. Listen to that video yourself. You don't want to get involved? Or how many of you are involved? This is what I've thought of. What about this voting block of evil? The cops all know. That's why no one knocked on my door. That's why none of those cops who talked to maybe 800 victims went forwards with it. The lawyers know. They're court every day. In fact, Bob Jutras, a lawyer of mine who's on the 50 million, I remember once he said before he came forwards, he goes, if I say anything, I'll never win another case. And there you have it. And you know what all these lawyers have in common? They're licensed. You know what these people own? The PCC and the JCC, meaning the Judicial Conduct Committee and the Personal Conduct Committee, judges and lawyers. You know who sits on the board and the president? These filthy bastards. You say anything, you'll never practice again. I owned the largest volume mortgage company in the country. Never cheated one customer a penny. I would never even charge an application fee. So if you didn't get your loan, you didn't cost you a penny. They took my license because of the cartel. The same people on the $50 million settlement. Department of Revenue, the same people on my settlement, auctioned my property to. Oh, the drug cartel, who, by the way, bought it and gave the money to my ex-wife for her silence, and she ran off to Naples. You see, they all know no one's coming to your rescue. As in a politician, you think Trump's the savior. And I did too. Which is why when he said drain the swamp, I was the front in line. In fact, you see those message centers with the faces of the drug cartels? Trump's face was on there too, as I supported him. In fact, drug-infested den, when he said it, what do you think gave him that evidence? Anybody else calling New Hampshire drug-infested cartels but me? You see anybody else in that courtroom? Oh, Aaron Day, who worked with Project Veritas, who gave me the evidence, who took a deal and took off and turned over all our witnesses. Day ran for senator at the behest of Bill Shaheen and part of the deal to get A or B so Hassan would win. He got 17,000 votes and Hassan won by 1,000. So from that little courtroom, from that drug cartel to the state of corruption is why you have Hassan for a second term now. Why the Senate of the United States is now in Democratic control. All from a little courtroom in a drug cartel. And you not paying attention or not caring. Or that voter block of lawyers, cops. How about the people who work for our court system? Our banking department, our Department of Revenue, all those state agencies are people employed. Each one of them knowing the truth. Remember, 800 children seeking help. What about the media? How many people work in the media that know the truth that covered it up? And none of them come forwards. I come forwards, and I am attacked by all fronts. All fronts that wanted to pay me money not to tell you. So in other words, D'Alessandro writing that bill to bring these people in, the banking commissioner at the time who's on my settlement again was with Perlo. And you see me call out to Sununu in the executive council meeting that Perlo was he defended insurance companies. Right. Can you imagine if you find out that they've been cheating you all along of the class action suits across the board? You're damn right they use insurance. You come out of the AG's office. You know who I gave the Ponzi scheme to? The AG's office. Perlo. Perlo runs over to the gatekeeper of the banking department along with assistant AG head to go after me. Go after his house, go after his business, but you've got to shut him up. There's a video on Gronk Talk where I actually had George Lambert, who helped with the bill, ex-state senator, confess working with Richard Head. I had Richard Head's notes. They knew of FRM and the Ponzi scheme 6 years before anybody knew about it. They were working together. They knew Shaheen owned it. They knew Commissioner Hildreth was part of it. Two of his brothers were partners in the Ponzi scheme. You see, now Perlo, and this is now, put your thinking caps on. You ready? As I gave you the money laundering network, lo and behold, Pandora Papers, again, the largest in the world money laundering network, is parked in the state of New Hampshire. Remember, 717,000 apiece for every man, woman, and child. Perlo, who blocked me and in the Ponzi scheme with the banking department to become the banking commissioner, He then becomes the head of a management company of trust and LLCs. 8 people protecting hundreds of billions of dollars, bigger than your defense budget, was Perlo, the insurance defender. Now, it was called Prospective Trust. So when the Pandora Papers gave you the cartel with AutoFare, which immediately sells, Andy Cruz goes opening treatment centers, drug distribution, and becomes the president of the lottery, nominated by Sununu, partner in this organization of crime, and lottery being money laundering and gaming. Just as Dick Aganoff seems to be opening a casino every couple of weeks. Money laundering. I mean, again, blind squirrel. Now, the other thing named on it was Granite State Recovery. The same recovery center, along with Hope Treatment Center, that I said was drug distribution, was owned by the cartel. Well, guess what? They're in the Pandora Papers, which is now in Congress, in the House Ways and Means Committee, that I'm a witness of, that has taken my evidence. Now, guess who gets closed down? Granite State Recovery. They sell. Listen, the value of AutoFare was in drug distribution and money laundering. Selling cars was insignificant. The value of that business was in what it did outside of that business. As Granite State Recovery, the money is there is drug distribution. Oh, they made millions with Medicaid fraud and didn't pay taxes thanks to Alex Walker. That's part of the gig, and that's part of the treatment centers. But I gave you that, and they were in the Pandora Papers, and they did sell them. As they did Prospective Trust. They sell the management company. That's right. They're named in the Pandora Papers right next to the Dartmouth Hospital that I gave you to, with ex-U.S. Attorney Kakavas covering up. As Walker goes to the Catholic Medical Center, your ex-U.S. attorney who covered all this up was the prosecutor for FRM, becomes the head lawyer for Dartmouth Hospital, which is again in the drug distribution, again named in the Pandora Papers, and is now talking about selling. I mean, man. So where did Perlo go? Jordan Park. What's Jordan Park? A management company of trust and LLCs in the state of New Hampshire for hundreds of billions of dollars. They just did the switch-o. Same job, same money, different name, and they're cutting off the assets implicated in the Pandora Papers. The same money laundering network I gave you. The same one that they wanted to pay me $50 million for. Now think about this. Banking Commissioner, Banking Department, Department of Revenue, the IRS. Now what do they all have in common? Now think about it. They audit, right? They audit you. Now think about this. If you're going to steal billions in the tune of $932 billion, now remember, the IRS is checking on you for $600. But if you're going to steal that many billions, who's going to catch you? Well, the IRS is going to see it, the banking department see it, the Department of Revenue, which is the state tax. Guess what? That is the money laundering network.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to bring Jerry Michaels in. He's the host of the American Rebellion, which runs Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. He would like to get you on the broadcast, and we'll work on getting that set up with you. And right now, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry and have Jerry and you talk a little bit, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay, Jerry, your mic is off. At least it says your mic is off. There you go. Good morning.
Yeah. All right. How you doing? Nice.
I'm doing fantastic, sir. Talk with Mike.
I don't know if you've been listening, Jerry.
Last couple times I've seen you on, a lot of corruption and bad things in New Hampshire, I assume.
Well, what it is New Hampshire is ground zero for opioids and money laundering. The Pandora Papers I was just talking about is $932 billion. Again, that's more money than the defense. We spent $19 billion in the Ukraine, which is again money laundering. I mean, when they all steal and they all sell protection, the commonality amongst them all is they've got to clean their money. So what I'm saying, so New Hampshire is the domino across this country. That 932 billion, I've just recently said this, that's $717,000 per person in the state of New Hampshire. I mean, the Pandora Papers is that money laundering network, is that commonality. Who built it? Bill Shaheen. Who protects it? Governor Sununu. This isn't Republican and Democrats. They divide you by race, religion, and politics. These bastards are in business. And their business is protections and kickbacks. I'm suggesting that Hunter Biden's money, the Clinton Foundation, Joe Biden, is sitting in New Hampshire. Listen, people didn't believe me when I said that they were the deep state laundering network. Pandora Papers call them the laundering network, the largest in world history, after I called that out. And what you didn't know, Jerry, maybe, but Dave did through the other show, is that I gave this evidence to Trump. Corey Lewandowski, his campaign manager at the time, was my contact. They sent me to the Department of Justice. U.S. Attorney Lullen was appointed for 2 weeks, and he had a meeting with me. What did he ask for? A settlement agreement of $50 million that I refused, that had Bill Shaheen on it, the IRS, the banking department, the banking commission, the Department of Revenue, again, everything that audits and how they get away with what they're doing. What goes on in this country is who we pay to protect us betrayed us. Who's responsible to the investigation? Titka of the Treasury Department. We've got them on tape saying they have plants and intercepting my mail. The FBI, I have over a dozen videos of confronting the FBI face to face at their doors. Washington, Bedford, New Hampshire, Boston, Mass, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, calling them out as treason and traitor with the evidence. And you see them listening to me on speaker or through the door, but refuse to open it. When I had the largest cartel in this country, the largest money laundering network in this country, this absolute evidence. So Trump sent me to the Department of Justice. U.S. Attorney Lullen, I have posted his own evidence list. That evidence list he sent to the Attorney General of the United States. Now you think about this. One, you don't meet with a U.S. attorney. You certainly don't meet with the head of the U.S. attorneys for all of New England. You certainly doesn't send your evidence to the Attorney General of the United States, which was Sessions, then Barr. And then as soon as Trump loses, he has General Flynn seek me out. Now, all of this in communications. You see the text message with General Flynn asking for my help, asking for the settlement after the election. As soon as they hit DEFCON 5, my evidence was to be used to keep Trump in office. So the question would be, because the evidence in the communications is clear, again, with the Department of Justice, even with the AG. So what would keep Trump in office? By finding the money laundering network of Clinton and the Bidens, also across this country of drug cartels and human traffickers they're protecting. I mean, the distribution. I mean, you hearing about drug distribution? It's hospitals, it's pharmacies, it's treatment centers. Cartels own them. So that truth was going to keep Trump in office. I have 2.5 months of communications from right after the election to January 8th with Flynn, military intelligence, and Sidney Powell. Why was I important then? Because that evidence could have kept him in office. It was January 6th that screwed this up. And I was in the meetings with those people, with military. It was my advice, and you see me, text communication was not to do that, was to turn around and use this evidence. Now, they put on that show, infiltrated the FBI. The FBI then came visiting me in the parking lot, standing by my car, telling me to shut up. Yeah, I have communications with the FBI in Orlando, Florida, then the Tampa Bay. They knew what was going on. This whole thing with January 6th was infiltrated and set up, and they screwed up again. That's why my evidence wasn't in play. General Flynn has it now. I even have a message from Roger Moore, who was with Flynn and Eric Trump in Pennsylvania, and you see them send it to me that everything you said was true. We know. Oh, they knew. Trump knows now. I mean, how are they coming at Trump? Through the IRS. Who's on the settlement agreement? The IRS. If it was enough evidence to keep somebody in office, you think it's enough evidence to keep somebody out of jail? And that's where we are. And my message to everybody across this country is, you got to stop looking for saviors and start saving ourselves. These politicians are all lying to you.
I've been saying that for years.
Right. This is about, they serve.
Can I read these papers somewhere? The
Pandora papers? You can Google them.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. Ready?
Okay.
I'm in Washington right now as a witness. Those Pandora papers are being investigated by Congress. They're in the Ways and Means Committee right now. My fear is we got corrupt politicians looking for corrupt politicians. That doesn't work. We got the FBI investigating the FBI. So the point being is, I need to have the people know. New Hampshire, there's 2 states that they're using. Small, completely corrupted. South Dakota's got 300 billion. New Hampshire's got 932 billion. Who owns that money? Who does that money belong to? Dummy corporations, LLCs. Those are the corrupt politicians. Those are your money launderers and drug traffickers and child trafficking. Everything that's evil and corrupt in this country is in their money. The commonality is, did you find their money? What do they say? Follow the money? Well, I did. I owned the largest volume mortgage brokerage firm in the United States. I was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I caught the New Hampshire banking department. I figured out that they were doing the laundry. I knew it was Bill Shaheen, who I knew as my own attorney was the head and architect of this network of laundering. His was the campaign manager of Hillary Clinton. His wife was a VP candidate for Biden. If you're Biden and Clinton and you're stealing and need your money hidden and laundered, you might just pick one of your best friends, one of your most trusted friends, who just happens to have the largest network in the world. That Pandora Papers called out years after I turned down the $50 million and told you what they were. I mean, we had multiple birds landing in the same nest. That information and evidence is in Washington. I don't trust them, but it is the domino. What we need as a country is a plan. People come up and say, well, this is corrupt and this is corrupt. Like you said, we know that it's corrupt. What I am indifferent is, and I ran state of corruption, and I put these businesses together. I also was the world champion of thoroughbred racing. I had the largest racing stable in the world. I beat the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, meaning I didn't fall off a turnip truck. I was a businessman. I was inside. I know how they work. This is a domino finding their money. It is the secret of Hunter Biden's laptop. Why did the FBI to go to so much trouble, even infiltrate Twitter with Jim Baker as the general counsel from the general counsel of the FBI, the Department of Justice? Why? Because they had to protect that information. Why did they do the same with Oh, there was another big cover up with that. But Biden's laptop, what it means is, think about how dangerous it is. They weren't stealing millions, they were stealing billions. The Biden's been stealing and taking kickbacks for decades. You ready? Where did you put the money? Meaning you had to have laundered it. The issue with Hunter Biden's laptop and the fear of the FBI is that you ask the next question, which always never gets asked, is how did you clean the money? You clean the money, but you find the laundry. That's the cover-up of Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh, COVID was the other cover-up with social media, Twitter. Listen, when you have a cover-up, it means they don't want you to know the answer. And the answer is this country, we're under attack from within. We are controlled by the corrupt and greed.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
That's what New Hampshire is a domino.
I keep telling people that as bad as you think it may be, it's much, much worse. The stuff that we don't know would probably start a civil war and people be hanging from trees in about 10 minutes.
You know what? That's the beauty.
We'd be amazed at who they are, because there is no such thing as Republican and Democrat. It's the same party. They're all protecting each other.
They serve the same master. That's why this money, $932 billion, is so important, and the money laundering. It is the commonality. It is all of them. It is all that's evil. It is the only way to get them off. Because here's, you ready? You're going to go to this politician with $1 billion. How'd you get it? It's the question they can't answer. It's the question they can't have you ask. That's why that's the domino. That's why it's important. For it to be in Congress, is they're on a brink. Now, I'm not trusting Congress, which is why it's so important that this information and people understand what's in Congress now. Because it is the evidence that I've had for years. It's why they tried to murder me 3 times. And what I'm telling you twice is on video. You can listen to Kill Gil right now on a 4th attempt from a hired hitman that Project Veritas recorded. And only because I was running for governor that he didn't murder me. Because they knew that this was the domino. That's the general. Even if this FTX, right? Crypto, that's money laundering too. Paying off politicians and money laundering. They just found out that this guy was arrested just before he had to speak to Congress. You know why he was arrested by Congress? So he couldn't speak to Congress, not knowing what he was going to say. Think about money laundering. What was Epstein and Maxwell? They were master money launderers. Why did they have blackmail? Because they were smart enough to know that they were in danger, because they knew how they cleaned their money. Epstein worked for Victoria's Secret cleaning their money. Now think about this. You ready? Maxwell, out of all the places in the world to go to, she had money, she had resources. You know where they got her? In the state of New Hampshire. You know who her lawyer was? The same Bill Shaheen married to Senator Jean Shaheen on my $50 million settlement. You know why she went to New Hampshire? Well, let's think about this. She was smart enough to go to the people that she had the most leverage on. Meaning, if you send me to jail, I send you to jail. They had the same corrupt Boston FBI. You see me knocking on their door, refusing the evidence, snatch her up. And she turns around and says nothing. You know why she says nothing? They just killed her boyfriend. What alternative they give her? They shut her up, shut her down, put her in there. And think about this. She was a madam to all those clients. Not a single one of those clients, from Clinton to Prince Andrew, was questioned or indicted. I mean, how do you have a crime without them? But don't forget, what I'm saying and the point I'm making is They were money launderers. She went back into New Hampshire because that's where she had the most leverage. She had the most leverage because she knew who and what New Hampshire was. A small state, 1.3 million, completely controlled. New Hampshire's ground zero for opioids. How is that possible? Because the same money laundering network in the state of New Hampshire is also the protection hub. The DEA opens up the office in New Hampshire in 11, drug spike. The same town of Bedford where the cartel head, Dick Aganos, is. Who do they bring in as the police chief in a town of 23,000? Chief Bryonsky. Bryonsky was the head of the DEA for the Mid-Atlantic in charge of 300 agents. How does he become the police chief in a small town in New Hampshire? It's protection. That same DEA, you'll see a video that I did. I delivered evidence to the DEA. It says again, it got a tractor trailer full of fentanyl, 80,000 pound capacity tractor trailer. That is the largest seizure of fentanyl in world history. In that same town, in the same cartel that I called out, that you see me give the evidence to the DEA. New Hampshire is a distribution center. Added as is a money laundering network. To solve all our problems, how to take them all down, is find their money. Their money is a roadmap to every single corrupt politician, every single entity that's selling and buying protection. If you get $1 billion from that politician, you ask them, well, who paid you? You might find out it's the pharmaceutical industry. It's the insurance industry. It's a drug cartel, human trafficker. See, a roadmap. And you want to unite this country? Unite it with love of your country and the hatred of all that is evil taking it over. This, by identifying them, may be the commonality that we need to unite us, to demand action. And then we turn around and dismantle the DOJ and the FBI. We build it back up. We put honest people in. We put the penalties of treason, and we treat it as such. The same thing with politicians. We take the lobbyists. We take the special interests. We take these industries out of here. They're paying these lobbyists to poison us. They're paying these lobbyists to cover up COVID. How do we know we weren't attacked? Are we trusting the FBI who's covering it up and using social media? Biden who's making money and doing business with China? I mean, what tells you we're not under attack? Look where we are and look where they're going. They just armed 87,000 IRS agents, which my evidence proof of targeting, extortion, and money laundering. These people are saving their own asses and they're moving quickly. How does the few control the many? They're showing you how to do it. Our intelligence agencies are the deep state. They picked a guy like Biden because he can be leveraged. That's their pick. It's like the mafia who makes somebody because they committed a murder. They trust you because you can be leveraged and you're going to share the same cell with them. This is how it's working now. I am telling you, this opportunity, I hung on these years, gave up what I did because I knew how important the money laundering was. And in fact, it was the first domino. The fact that the Pandora Papers, and trust me on this, ready? They were all foreign journalists, not from this country. Wasn't the media of country that followed and tracked this money to New Hampshire, but foreign journalists. And they did it collectively. You know why? Because some of these journalists found me. And they explained to me the reason why they did it was individually they would kill them. Collectively was their protection. Not that they don't have fear, but their protection was in the many. That's the whistleblowers, how it goes in this country. They pick off our whistleblowers. It's why you have so few. And the media is trained not to break those stories, not to go viral. That's even, again, with Elon Musk. Now, everything I say, I have evidence and 100% proof, back it up, and I put it out there. But I do have this thought with Elon Musk, and this is just an opinion. By opening up Twitter, communications in war is the first thing they cut. And they've cut our communications. All our communications from the media to then social media has been corrupted. By opening up that line of communications, and the first thing Musk does is opening up and showing you the control, the FBI and the infiltration of the FBI. Now that's a good sign. Let's hope that keeps going. But if that's a free and open communication, we can organize there. We get this, we could put the pressure of the people on getting the names and the industries and the people of 932 billion. It'd be how we start. But we need eyes on it. So you have to understand that Musk is a smart person. He must know the potential of the next step. So I'm hoping that's true. So that may be an avenue. But we need people to know we need answers of that 932 billion. Who does it belong to? I can tell you that the drug cartel that I called out, and I've mentioned this earlier, are selling assets, are selling treatment centers, are selling management companies, are selling auto dealerships. It means they have fear. And the fact that they have fear gives us hope. It means we're closer than people think. And the media won't tell you how close it is. This Biden laptop, don't let them get away with Biden on a gun charge. See, there's the trick that they do. I caught the cartel, they gave us the trafficker. That's what stopped Vice President Pence's plane from visiting Granite State Recovery, who just happened to be now in the Pandora Papers. They give you a crump when you find the loaf. Don't let them think you've got a victory on a gun charge with Hunter Biden. You want to turn around and charge him and find out the money laundering. Don't fall for the rest for that bullshit. Find out the money laundering. See, those are the two words, money laundering. That is the way out. That's the questions and answers that they can't give.
Okay, we've reached 9 o'clock, so we've got about 15 minutes. If anyone has questions they want to throw in, Jerry, you have questions that you want to be able to ask in the final 15 minutes. And Mike, feel free to.
Oh, go ahead, Jerry. I'd like to answer any of your questions.
Well, I agree. There's obviously way more than what we're seeing through the press. The press has become, they're useless. They're allowing this to go on. So my question is how many in the press, or at least the owners of the press, are they making off this deal? Because obviously the press is controlled by very few people, because they're owned by like 3 people or something. And, so we're not, I've never heard of the Pandora Papers really, other than on Facebook. And I kind of have a hard time believing a lot I hear on Facebook, but
well, how about this? It's in Congress. It's in committee. So that's important. Google Pandora Papers New Hampshire too. There's a couple articles where they're naming the same entities that I named and called out. We can't trust the media.
Yeah.
Think about this. You ready? The same board members on the pharmaceutical industry are the same board members in the media companies. They share the same people and board members. But see, here's the thing about when the truth becomes the obvious. And I think that's why we'll look at Elon Musk, right? He's being attacked. Where is the media with the fact that the general counsel for the FBI was blocking as the general counsel for Twitter? Why isn't that out there? Why isn't the media going after that story? Why aren't they turning around and saying, hey, Biden's been in business for generations. Why aren't we seeing what they did with their money? Obviously, they're not paying taxes on it, right? In other words, they're going after Trump with his taxes. Where's the Bidens with the money and the kickback, for instance, from China or the Ukraine? Where's the taxes being paid there? Hunter Biden's partner, Bobulinski, I think his name is saying it's in the billions. What did Bobulinski say? It's in a dummy corporation, LLC. What is in the Pandora Papers in New Hampshire calling out? Dummy corporations, LLCs, and trust companies. See, and the state senator who wrote that bill was a member of the cartel. See, there are doors and paths. The media doesn't want to incite anything because they don't want you to open that next door. So the question to the media is, why aren't you saying that? Why aren't you forcing the issues with COVID? Why aren't you forcing the issues with Hunter Biden's laptop? I mean, we have a January 6th committee. The only people that went to jail and draining the swamp was patriots that showed up on January 6th. Nobody else went to jail. And you've seen the media job they've done on that. I mean, where's the information that the FBI was infiltrated in that? Was behind and orchestrating the incitement of that. The FBI and Congress and the Senate refused to answer questions. Republican Jim Jordan I was listening to an interview with him, and he said, we're going to get behind this laptop. We're going to find out where. And the reporter asked a simple question. And then what? He stood silent, and he goes, well, what do you mean? Well, and then what? Well, he goes, we're not the cops. We can't prosecute. I mean, you've got nothing. Who are the cops? Who prosecutes? The FBI? Well, wait a minute now. The FBI covered the story up. You're telling us you're not a cop. You can't arrest anybody. So it goes back to the same FBI who covered it up from the beginning. We are in a cycle of bullshit. So Jim Jordan got his photo up, got America saying, okay, he's a good guy. There are no good guys. Who's calling out corruption?
I
Kelsey
learned about
Gabbard.
the good guys from Trey Gowdy, a guy who, because there's one thing that happened was Benghazi, and that to this day pisses me off beyond belief. Trey Gowdy used to give the greatest speeches on the planet. And when he finally had a chance to actually do something about that, it wasn't even in the news for 3 days. No one went to jail. And, a former president of the United States should have been in jail for that. Obviously, Clinton, and then, when we finally do have her on a bunch of stuff, what happens? The FBI lets her off the hook. The Department of Justice lets her off the hook. Jim Jordan is no better than any of the rest of them. He just gives a good speech and makes it, one of those chest pounding speeches, like they all do. And I don't trust nothing none of them say. I don't, because you know why? We have investigation after investigation after investigation after investigation. We spend millions and millions of dollars on this for some reason, because I got to tell you, it don't cost that much to have an investigation. But they spend that much, $30-40 million on it, and nobody goes to jail. And if we're lucky, some lawyer nobody's ever heard of goes to jail, or gets found not guilty. At least he goes to court, but then found not guilty or given probation or something. It's utterly ridiculous how they protect each other.
Who went to jail in this whole Russian hoax? Nobody. And I don't trust Durham either. Now, and think about Craig Gowdy you brought up. I reached out to him a couple times as he was a lawyer. And you know what? Nothing. It was all bullshit.
Yeah.
Listen, what they've got to do is each side's got to sell you on their position to divide you. You have to believe, to be divided, you have to think there's good guys and there are bad guys. That's the trick. That's the pretty girl in the magic act, to make you think somebody's on your side. That is the tool of division.
Yeah.
That is the tool of taking the fight against one another. When have we ever had in this country the Republicans hating Democrats and vice versa more than it is now. And why wouldn't we have commonality if you brought up corruption? Do we each want corruption? Do we all love drug cartels, human traffickers? Why are our borders open? Does that make sense to anybody? I can tell you why our borders are open. These guys are making deals with box companies like CVS, Walmart's, with their pharmaceutical industry, pennies on the dollars. They're bringing street distribution to America. Drug cartels and the people coming across are coming into your city to be street distribution for fentanyl, which is going to kill hundreds of millions of people over a period of time. I mean, that is the new drug. You're going to find it in pot, you're going to find it in all kinds of, and it's going to kill people. And why do you think this crime in our city is skyrocketing? Because of drugs. Why are we having in Boomtown so many people living in tents on the streets? This is an infiltration of our whole country. And fentanyl, again, where did it come from? China. Where did COVID come from? China. Who's on Hunter Biden's laptop? China. You don't think this is a plan? Why do we keep coming back to the same people? I mean, obviously it's that.
I think China released the COVID on purpose. I don't believe of lab leaks. I don't believe in any of that crap. I believe they let it go on purpose. They let their people catch it and then sent them all over the world. And they wanted to bring down Western society. And I think the Democrats got a hold of it. You know, when this first started, Nancy Pelosi went to China on some secret mission, and I read one article on it, never heard another word about it, and it has always bothered me on why she went there. Well, if you look at what happened since she came back, you know, and up till now, we could, you know, it's easy to figure out. Okay.
Well, you know something
that
too?
Whole thing, I've talked to doctors who have told me it would have been better off if everybody would have caught it and just, you know, that'd been the end of it, instead of what they were doing.
Well, with Biden's laptop and the connection with China, Pelosi might be over there too, saying, listen, what are you going to say on your end if this starts coming up? Yeah. See, now they've got to keep to a certain story. Now they've got to keep to a certain plan. See, that's why a guy like Musk is a fly in the ointment, because if he has their communications, what if he has Baker's communications with Pelosi or with Biden? I mean, the guy who's the general counsel, what if it's the director of the FBI? Where does that go to? All I can tell you is the media isn't covering it. Where they build the walls the highest is where they have the most to hide. See, so in other words, let's hope it keeps going there. Let's hope a guy like Musk breaks it out. Like Kelsey Gabbard. What did she come out and say? All of Congress is corrupt. She said they're all corrupt. It is the norm. It is what's normal there. She's at least coming out and saying it. So we've had cracks that are coming out. This thing with Musk, cracks that are coming out.
Okay, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mike, but we got about 4 minutes before I actually have to pull the plug on this one. We will have you back as often as we can. We will help you do broadcast everywhere you can do them. Jerry, any final comments in a minute for Mike?
Yeah, I'd like to have you on the American Rebellion at some point in the near future, if that would be possible. A lot of interesting things being said. Kind of gives you an idea of the behind the scenes of what's actually going on. So if you'd like to come on, we're on at 7
anytime,
p.m.
Jerry. You tell me, Jerry, right, and I'll be there.
We're friends on Facebook. We're going on tonight, Friday, and Saturday. I think Friday would be good.
Okay, I'm good.
That way I can promote it. I can promote it a little bit, and
okay.
get people to. We don't get a huge following or anything, but you never know. I'll put out an
He doesn't
event
get a
or
huge
something
following.
and
He
see what
gets
we can
maybe
get.
400 or 500 people watching every single night, if not more.
The line in the sand right
I
now
don't know.
is media, is getting this out. And we never know. From the largest podcast to the smallest podcast, we just have to hit maybe the right person that helps us to make it go viral. The line in the sand is that if this evidence goes viral, it's game over. They know it too. So if you want to follow me, State of Corruption on YouTube, State of Corruption on Truth, Mike Gill on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah. So all right. So we'll get the connection set up for you to be on the American Rebellion Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Sounds good.
I'm going to throw one last thing out that I'm going to read one last thing.
I'll message you tomorrow.
Okay. So we'll make sure that we're all there, or you're there for Friday. But Lisa Center wanted to comment. Mike, she has a friend who found out when he was 50 that he was stolen at birth. He's trying to expose the cops, lawyers, etc., the city of Lawrence, the city of Tewksbury, the city of Haverhill, all Massachusetts cities. How can we get these corrupt people with child trafficking exposed? Think about it, Mike. We'll discuss it the next time. You can discuss it Friday on the American Rebellion with Jerry. I unfortunately do have to wrap this one up. I have to be in a doctor's room at 10:30. If possible, Mike, maybe we'll bring you on another broadcast later this afternoon or this evening. But yeah, do the American Rebellion. You'll be very happy. It's it's usually 4 people are on, a very active chat group. You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. They'll enjoy having you there, and everyone will get educated. So, gentlemen, wave goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Mike, it's always a
talking to you.
We'll have you back, Jerry. It's always a pleasure. And so what we're going to do is we're going to send them on their way. This broadcast of Boogie with the Bull Morning Caffeine was live on my Dave Globin profile on Facebook. It was live on the Boogie with the Bull page, not the group, the Boogie with the Bull page on Facebook. It was on the Boogie with the Bull YouTube channel live, and it was on Boogie W Bull. That's our Twitter. It's our Twitter account. I'm still learning where I know it lands on Twitter and people are retweeting it. I actually haven't been educated to understand exactly where it lands on Twitter. So if you see it, it's &Boogie WT Bull. If you see the Boogie with the Bull broadcast, by all means, please retweet it. And then also send me a message on Twitter so I understand exactly where it drops. And I will make sure that it gets retweeted as well. With the Boogie with the Bull YouTube channel, please subscribe to it. Tell your friends to come subscribe to it. There are old Boogie with the Bulls there. Some of them are very funny as well as informative. Some of them are just funny. Some of them are just informative. We're doing our best to kick this thing up a notch. Boogie with the Bull. Again, we will thank Randy Griesenbeck and his wife, Jessica Harrison, for the Christmas present of the StreamYard 8-pack. As I said, I just call it the StreamYard 8-pack. We have 8 cameras on a broadcast. We can be on up to 8 destinations at once. And a broadcast can, in fact, go 8 hours in length, and we can do multiple broadcasts in the course of a time. Now that we're paying StreamYard, I feel good about plugging StreamYard. If you're looking for a live stream option, also, I did say that once the blue check verification system is verified and vetted and ready to go on Twitter, we will probably join, because it does in fact include a live stream link directly to Twitter from within Twitter. So, and I just think Twitter is the way to go. We're all on social media is the best way to go. As we schedule more broadcasts with Mike through our Boots on the Ground affiliation with Derek Arnold, my buddy in crime, as I refer to him, and he will refer to me. Watch them. Nationwide Presents is working on doing some broadcasts with Mike as well. That's Derek Arnold. And so watch come in if you have questions. Maybe we'll bring some live guests on to be able to question Mike as well. Knowledge is power, and you need to expose yourself to as much knowledge as you can. Unfortunately, it is, let me see, it's 9:18. I got to wrap up this Boogie with the Bull, and I promise we will have Mike on as often as we can. We're working with getting Mike on all of the other broadcasts that he can be on, as well as hopefully helping him get State of Corruption and State of Corruption New Hampshire, both on YouTube, updated and going and shared again. If you want to share this broadcast, the best way to do it is go over to the Boogie with the Bull YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, and take the broadcast from there and share it anywhere you want. Yes, you still can take, in most cases, the Facebook link, because now it's Facebook Watch, and that will land wherever you want to share it, and it will bring you to watch the broadcast. And if you're not a Facebook member, it will give you an option to join Facebook if that is what you want to do. But right now, I got to wrap up this broadcast. It's always a pleasure to be able to abuse as much time as you let me on a Boogie with the Bull broadcast. And I laugh about it. It's sarcastic. I hope I'm not abusing your time. If you can't watch us live when we're live, watch the podcast whenever you can. The views are growing. On an average day, it can be in the upper 20s to somewhere in the 130, 140 range. So share it with your friends. Invite your friends to come and watch it. Share it in the groups. Admins of groups, I've always said, if you post Boogie with the Bull broadcasts in your group, or allow me to post them in your groups, and you want to come on and expose your group to Facebook Nation, please do. Please do. Please do. But right now, I got to plug this. I got to get in the shower. I got a 9:20 shower reservation, and then I'm out the door in the doctor's office at 10:30 this morning. So you know me, I sit in front of my computer 18 hours a day and try to look for broadcasts that we either plan to do at a later date, or we do them on the spur of the moment. So I got to wrap this up. Double B's for victory. This Boogie with the Bull broadcast did come to an end. An hour and 28 minutes, which is within the hour and 30-minute maximum rule. So you should be able to watch it. Anyway, we hit that one. We come down. Double B's for victory. This broadcast of Boogie with the Bull is coming to an end. An hour and 20